Survivors, March is the month to watch for because ARK is releasing a roadmap for all iterations of the ARK franchise. This should mean ARK 1, ARK 2, Animated Series and the Survival of the Fittest. It may also relate to platforms that could include mobile. I'm genuinely really excited about this. Roadmaps are not something Wildcard does often, but it's a very welcome move as long as it contains substantial detail. They said it will come in March, but no specific date was given. This could give a lot of the answers to what we as a community have been waiting for, and a good possibility of some surprises too. I'm covering all of these areas and what I think will be coming with the roadmap, so make sure you stick with this video. If you are only looking for something specific like ARK 2 for example, then I have placed chapters in the timeline just for you. Starting off with the Animated Series, this roadmap is likely to provide us information on the release date for Season 1, and more importantly, the streaming platform. These are the key details that all Animated Series fans are waiting for. Is it going to be the highly rumoured HBO Max, or will it be a platform more widely accessible? They could also provide us with information on when to expect Season 2 later in the year, but really that's less important at this stage. What we need right now is Season 1 and the platform. And I think when they give us a release date for this, well, this is probably the only release date I will have confidence in from Wildcard, because delays are a lot less common in the film and TV industry. But if anyone can start a trend, well, let's just not go there. It's also possible there could be a new trailer drop too, but that may depend on how close the release actually is. So I think this is pretty much what we're expecting, or at least hoping for, with the Animated Series roadmap. I can't think of anything else that they would really be planning on detailing for this. Moving on to ARK 2. Yes, this is a pretty big one. There are several things they could cover in the roadmap for ARK 2, with the first being when they intend to showcase the first gameplay trailer. Hopefully this will include a date or possibly an event like PAX East, Summer Games Fest or E3. Then there's the actual release date for ARK 2 in early access on the PC and Xbox. If they don't give any of this information, then it's not much of a roadmap, because these are the things people are waiting to hear about the most. I suspect when it comes to actual release dates, they may provide one for the gameplay trailer, but for ARK 2 release, it could be more of a month or period, such as Q3 or Q4, rather than a specific date. That's only because I still think it's further out than June, so putting an exact date on it is unlikely. I know many people think that wildcard dates don't mean much because everything is always delayed, which is absolutely true, but the one thing a release date does provide is the understanding that you won't see whatever it is before that date, so it at least gives you a good idea of when to start expecting stuff. But they've got to provide detail on when to expect ARK 2 and how progress is going for this to be any kind of a useful roadmap. There's a slim possibility they could mention PlayStation in their roadmap, but I'm pretty sure there's likely to be a clause in the agreement with Microsoft that prevents mention of PlayStation before ARK 2 is released. I'd honestly be surprised if there isn't. The roadmap could also outline their plans on ARK 2 reveals leading up to the gameplay. They've already told us they are going to showcase stuff more regularly before gameplay is revealed. The first showcasing was 3 weeks ago when they showed off the Stego and the Brachio concepts. There's a possibility we could see something new this week if they are doing it monthly, but the roadmap could detail that a bit further. The roadmap could also provide any indications as to whether the previous ARK 2 delay was related to the team making changes to the game on the back of the response to the game so far, i.e. first person, Souls-like combat, etc. But hopefully this roadmap will finally give some idea whether ARK 2 is still on track for 2023 or pushed back to 2024. Next up is ARK Survival Evolved. You know, that game everyone thought was going to end when ARK 2 releases. Well, surely the roadmap will contain the big Unreal Engine 5 announcement. hopefully detailing when this is going to happen and what exactly it means. And what it means for mods, because that is a big concern in the unofficial PC community right now. But this is where I just think there's something more that they haven't revealed yet, and I think it's to do with ARK 1. Unreal Engine 5 could open up a lot more opportunities for ARK 1, and I honestly think this development is designed to be a prototype for what is expected to come in ARK 2. So I genuinely don't think they are simply going to upgrade the engine and leave it at that. There is more surprises to come for ARK 1, I'm confident in that. Everything that's been going on recently just points in that direction. And I think they are trying to improve upon ARK 1, as there could potentially be an influx of new interest once the animated series launches. So if you are worried that ARK 1 is going to end, then all I'll say is keep positive. The roadmap could contain their plans for when to release a Rhino Agnatha into the game. But this unexpected creature announcement has caused a lot of speculation in the community as to whether that could suggest a new DLC, possibly a new mod map could be introduced this year with the Rhino Agnatha. There are a number of sponsored mod maps that are running right now, so we could potentially be seeing something new, and hopefully we'll find out next month if those suspicions may be true. It's also possible that the roadmap could detail what Wildcard's plans are for ARK 1 once ARK 2 is released, including official server support. Then there's ARK Mobile. Now bear with me for this one, because I honestly feel there's something there. I know a lot of people say mobile has been abandoned as Grove Street Games moved over to the Switch and ARK 2, but we know that Wildcard are looking for a mobile developer for ARK 2. So we know there are plans for mobile platforms to get the sequel at some point in the future. But as for ARK 1, mobile is in a similar position that the Switch found itself in, where it was left abandoned until it got rebuilt and got all content added to it. I would certainly not lose hope that something similar could happen with the mobile version. Mark my words, it could happen. Grove Street did mention back in January on their Discord that they'd love to do more for mobile, but I wouldn't expect any news until later this year at the earliest. This possibly suggests that there is something potentially being planned or talked about, or they are hopeful that they'll have the resources to return to development later in the year. So whether anything will be included in the roadmap, I'm not sure, but I honestly believe mobile does have a future of some kind. Next up is the Survival of the Fittest. Honestly, I'm not sure what to say about this one, because the launch of it hasn't gone as well as I thought it might, mainly due to the original trailer indicating simultaneous release with console, and then it getting multiple pushbacks. Wildcard originally stated that this prototype will be developed based on player feedback, and they need as many players involved to really test the product. If it takes off, then it could potentially grow into its own and become separate from ARK. Well, they honestly can't make any of these decisions until they get it out on console to give those players the time to experience it and provide their feedback, and for the developers to judge how well or not so well it has been received by the console community. The player base has dwindled recently, let's be honest, but they really need to get console players involved sooner rather than later. So honestly, I can't see them saying much about the Survival of the Fittest in the roadmap until they've pushed it out to all platforms and given the time to the Xbox and PlayStation players to experience it. There's a possibility they could mention what plans they have to bring it to the Switch, as this is something they previously mentioned when they first announced the game. But I'd be surprised if they have much in the form of timescales or details for the Survival of the Fittest, considering console hasn't even got it yet. And that's everything I feel is going to be covered in the roadmap. That covers all iterations of the ARK franchise, unless of course they've got something brand new to include, like a big screen movie or something. But I really do think there's some surprises in store to come. Let me know what you think about what I've gone through and whether you think there's anything else. What are you hoping for the most from this roadmap? Survivors, if you don't want to miss out on all the latest ARK news, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.